Hey guys, my name is Coral and I'm a programming specialist here at the Pioneer Library System. Today I'm going to teach you guys the basics of cross-stitching. Cross-stitching is a really great craft because it is great for lots of ages. It's very beginner friendly. You can buy the supplies for fairly cheap, and there's so many great patterns that exist out there that you can really just find something to hang in your house that you really love or to give as a gift. So I'm going to get started and I'm going to show you guys some of the basic supplies that you'll need if you want to cross stitch. So first off is the embroidery hoop. My fabric's already in it, but there's plastic, there's wooden, there's lots of different kinds, different sizes depending on how big your project's going to be. But I just have a little one for a little project here. And then inside of it already is what's called the Aida cloth. I've heard it pronounced different ways. It's spelled A-I-D-A. And the cool thing about this cloth is that there are already kind of holes in it, which is where your stitches are going to be, which makes it really easy because you don't have to worry about things being even. You don't have to worry about kind of getting off track. You just follow the dotted line, essentially. In addition, I have some needles here. Typically, you're going to want tapestry needles. They come in silver and gold. I have the gold ones because I think they look cool. But there really is no thing you have to look for except you want them to say tapestry. And then kind of back to the cloth, I have size 14 cloth. The 14 count just means that every inch there's 14 dots. The higher the count, the smaller your cross stitch is going to be. So, if you're doing something on 18 count, it's going to shrink the overall size. And it's a little bit more difficult because it's going to show errors when all your stitches are that small and that close together. Where I think 14 count is really great for beginners because there's just more space and it's what most patterns are going to call for anyway. So because I have 14 count cloth, I'm going to want size 24 needles, which is what I have here. And these needles, these tapestry needles, they have blunt ends. So they're not super sharp, but they still will get you. That's just kind of a warning out there. And then finally, you're going to need what's called embroidery floss. The most common brand is DMC. This is kind of what it looks like in the store. It's just kind of looped like this, and then it has the number that correlates with the color. A lot of patterns are going to tell you what the colors they use to make the patterns are, so if you want it to be a perfect match. But there's a lot of flexibility in this craft, so you can always just pick whatever you like. For the sake of today, I have some that are already on bobbins, so I don't have to wrap them all. It's just easier to work with when it's on bobbins. Overall, it's really not that expensive to get started. I looked online, walmart.com today, to get fabric, a hoop, needles, and 4 colors. It would cost about $10. So it's really approachable. And then, of course, you'll need a pair of scissors. I have embroidery scissors. You can just use regular scissors, craft scissors. You're just cutting a piece of string, so pretty simple. And then finally, I have a pattern here. This pattern I just got for free off of Pinterest, this little fish in his bowl. But there are lots of great places to get free patterns. Country Living Magazine has a lot of really beautiful free patterns on their website. Pinterest, obviously. And then, of course, here at the public library, we have so many books, both physical and digital, that you can check out that have beautiful patterns in them as well. So you really don't need to spend money on patterns unless you see something you just absolutely love. Let's go ahead and get started. So I already have my fabric in a hoop. You guys do not have to watch me fight with it to get it in there. But we're going to start because I prefer to start on the bottom corner of my piece. Some people prefer to start in the middle. That's fine. It really is just preference, playing around, finding what you like. And since our bottom corner is this gray, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my gray embroidery floss. And the way embroidery floss is packaged is it comes in multiple strands. So there's lots of little strands in one kind of piece. But I'm just going to pull out one. So I just have one string here. And I'm not going to do a really big piece right now just because I want to be able to show you guys. And plus, once it starts to get tangled in things, it tends to make a mess. And I don't want to work with that today. So we will take our piece of string. We're going to kind of fold it in half. So this is just one piece and it's folded in half where you have this kind of loop at the top and then you've got two loose tails at the bottom. And I'm going to take my needle and we're going to see how well I can thread this on camera. And at the top where we've got the hoop, I am going to feed that hoop through the eye of the needle. So I might have to really focus here for a second. Maybe. It's one of those things that you're either get it on the first try or you have to try a couple times. And that's okay. There we go. And once I pull that through, so I've got the hoop pulled through the eyes of the needle, I've got my two loose tails, I'm going to put the blunt part of my needle through the hoop and pull it tight. So now this string is attached to my needle, it's not going anywhere, and I have two strands of floss. Most patterns call for two strands just because it shows up better in the cloth. So now that's a knot I don't have to tie. And then I'm going to go ahead and just make sure the tail is cut so it is evened. So there, that and putting the fabric in the hoop is probably the hardest part of cross stitching. So I'm going to put my pattern over here and I'm going to go ahead. It's sometimes cross stitching is called counted cross stitching because unfortunately there is counting involved. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the bottom row is 7 stitches. Pretty easy. So I'm just going to go ahead, this isn't a very big pattern, so I'm just going to kind of start. If you're doing a larger pattern or something more complex, I would definitely make sure the size of it is going to fit in your hoop before you start stitching. It's never fun to be halfway through a project and realize it's not going to fit on the fabric you have started with. But this one, not super worried about. So I'm just going to go ahead and gotta find a place to start. I'm going to go ahead and just stick my needle through one of the holes, the one I choose to start with, and I'm going to pull it through, but I'm going to leave a little bit on the back, probably a little bit less than that. I'm going to leave a little bit on the back, and I'll show you why here in a second. And what I do is I'm going to go diagonal down. So I'll go over one stitch and down. And so I will push my needle through that. And what I should have is just a little diagonal line here. Now on the back side, I'm going to pull the thread until it's almost all the way through. I'm going to leave a little bit out. Then I'm going to fold that down. And then in the hole directly above where where my needle just came out, I'm going to go back through that hole, maybe, and pull. And what that's going to do is that is going to lock in that needle. So now my my thread isn't going to go anywhere. So I don't have to worry about pulling the thread through the hoop. It is secured and I am all good to just keep stitching. So at this point, you are just going to continue what you did. So 1 over, 1 down, make another diagonal. So you've got 2 little diagonals right next to each other. And then we're going to do that for 7 stitches. So 3. And it's okay at the beginning when you're learning, if you have to flip over a lot. I know I did, just to make sure you're getting it in the right spot. And if you ever make a mistake, you go through the wrong spot, you can always just push your needle back through. It's a very forgiving craft. And you can always, if you don't like the way the pattern is, if you do 8 instead of 7, then you just keep going and adjust accordingly. 6 and 7. So now that I've gone one way across the whole bottom of this little fish tank here. I want to complete the cross stitch. So I will do what I did as usual and go in the hole directly above where I just came out of. And then, instead of going to the left like I had been doing, I'm going to go back. So I'm going to cross over that stitch I just completed. So I've got a little X there. And I am just going to do that all the way to, whoops, see? Sometimes you just got to pull it back out if it didn't work. I'm going to go back and just keep on going. And some things that just make this easier is if your fabric is really taut in the hoop, it tends to make your stitches look neater, and it tends to make it just a little bit easier to work with, which I always appreciate. And then there we go. That is our bottom layer. So we've got 7 little stitches, and we're ready to move on. Now, I have a decent amount of this gray thread, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of work around the pattern. If you wanted to, you could just do gray, and then you could rethread, do blue, gray, such and such all the way up, but I just feel like that's a waste of thread. So I'm just gonna go ahead here and go until I run out of this gray thread. All right, so I am pretty low on thread here. I don't feel like I can do another full stitch. But if you look at what I've done honestly about half the tank. This is a very tiny pattern. I blew it up so I could see it easier, but it's just a tiny little pattern. So when you're running out of thread and you don't feel like you can do another stitch, what you'll do, and this is gonna be a little interesting in a smaller hoop, it's a lot easier in a bigger hoop, but what you'll do is you'll kind of just maneuver your needle to go up and under some of the stitches you've already done. So I'm just going to kind of push it under there and pull it through. And what that has done is that has locked in the embroidery thread so that it isn't kind of sticking up any. So it is safely tucked under, which means I can now cut it off. And I'm going to trim this tail from earlier just because I don't like the way it looks. So now all my stitches are safe. They aren't going to come out of the fabric, and I've completed that little piece. Now what I could do is I could rethread with gray and kind of continue my journey around this little fishbowl, but I'm getting kind of sick of the gray, so I am going to go ahead and swap to this blue color just to give me something different. It tends to bore me when I do the same color for a long amount of time, and it's kind of fun just to switch back and forth, and it makes your project come to life a little faster, in my opinion. But you can do however you'd like. So I'm just going to show you guys again my way of threading and my way of starting. So I'm just going to take a little bit of blue here. I'm going to do what I did earlier, which is where I'm going to fold my one strand in half. So I've got kind of a loop at the top, and then I've got 2 loose tails at the bottom. Then I'm going to take the loop through the eye of the needle. See, on the first try this time. It's one or the other. And then I'm going to go through the loop, pull it tight, and now I've got my string on my needle and it's not going anywhere. And again, just going to trim it so it's even on both sides. That's just a preference to keep it clean. And then, so I see on my pattern, the blue starts right next to this little gray square. So I'm just going to go right in next to it. And I'll do my little diagonal, 1 over, pull it through, keep going till I've got just that little bit of tail. And always, if you don't feel like you have enough, you can always just pull it back out, and then go right in that hole right above where we just came out of. And you're going to get it caught, apparently. Well, if you're me, at least. That's okay. Come here. And pull. And now this piece of thread is locked in, and you can just keep on stitching. But yeah, that really is just the basic. You're just going to keep following this pattern. It's very similar to like a color by numbers or a diamond art, just with thread. The biggest questions that I feel like people ask when they first get started, people ask, oh, do I go in the same hole multiple times? Yeah, the thread, there's plenty of space for it to happen. I love to do this just as like a chill activity. I do it when I listen to audiobooks or podcasts, or I'm just watching something on TV just to keep me off my phone. But it really is just something that's a lot of fun and that I enjoy doing. Thank you for tuning in and watching. I will show you a completed of this at the very end, but make sure to check out our YouTube and check out some more videos that we've done for you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.